On April 10, 1912, crowds gathered at Southampton Beach to wave off what was, at the time, the world's largest and most prestigious ship, the RMS Titanic. The cost of the most expensive first-class parlor ticket was $4,350. That's around $70,000 in today's money. But barely 5 days after steaming away, the ship was swallowed by the Atlantic Ocean. So let's rewind and go back to what actually happened on that fateful night. The captain wanted to set a speed record for the ship's maiden voyage and arrive early. The ship was deemed unsinkable, so he went full throttle into the dark Arctic waters. After spotting the 100-foot iceberg, the crew desperately tried to steer the vessel away and avoid the collision, but the Titanic was traveling too fast, and the iceberg tore down the side of the ship, creating a huge opening in the hull. It wasn't a continuous rip, and damage was caused in several places. In total, the damage spanned along an area of around 300 feet. But the ship's designers had prepared for the prospect of a collision and added watertight compartments down each side of the ship to act as a buffer zone. 4 of these compartments could be breached, and the ship would still stay afloat. But because the iceberg tore down the side of the Titanic, it ripped holes in 6 compartments. The compartments didn't extend up the total height of all decks and weren't actually sealed at the top. This is why, when more than 4 were flooded, water reached over the top of the bulkheads and filled the remaining compartments, causing the ship to sink into the ocean. Think of it as water spilling over an ice cube tray. But what if the collision was head-on? Would it still have sunk? Ships are designed with potential crashes in mind, and most vessels have collision bulkheads in the bow. Most of all, it's like your car's bumper or crumple zone. It's a safety feature that can withstand a direct hit. The bow could have taken some of the impact, and some experts have suggested that if it hit head-on, only 2 to 4 of the watertight compartments would have been flooded. So, in theory, the Titanic might not have sunk, and it might have even been able to continue sailing to its final destination at a much slower speed. The force of impact would likely have been huge, though. But although passengers would have been injured by the force, they'd have been able to stay on the ship to wait to be rescued by other ships, rather than being forced into the icy waters of the Atlantic. Still, one of the Titanic's designers, Edward Wilding, suggested that the force of the impact might not have actually been that big. He told the British Inquiry that lots of people scarcely felt the collision, and he believed the ship would not have sunk if it did hit the iceberg head-on. The ship was also designed with remotely operated watertight doors between all compartments, so any floods could have been quickly sorted out. Because Titanic had 6 breaches from the side collision, and because it happened so quickly, sealing the doors wouldn't have made a difference, as it was essentially impossible to save it by that point. The ship immediately began to flood, with water pouring in at a rate of roughly 7 tons per second, 15 times faster than it could be pumped out. So, while it sounds like the Titanic would have survived had the ship hit the iceberg head-on, this idea does come with some issues. First off, the collision bulkheads were designed to survive a crash with another ship, not a giant iceberg. If 2 ships collided, both would absorb some of the impact in their bulkheads, sharing the impact and likely staying afloat. But an iceberg is stationary, meaning that Titanic would absorb most of the energy from the collision. If Titanic hit head first, because of the speed it was traveling, the impact would have likely traveled down the whole body of the ship. Just imagine a 46,000-ton ship traveling at around 20 knots. At some point, it hits an iceberg that weighs what could be over 100,000 tons. This collision would likely create a powerful force causing massive damage to the vessel. It is likely that seams would split, staircases would come tumbling down, and rivets would burst open across the ship. All that would have potentially flooded even more compartments. This could have caused Titanic to sink in a matter of minutes rather than hours. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. As we all know, the biggest part of it is hidden underwater. So if Titanic had been traveling head-on, it's likely it would have hit the part of the iceberg below the water first, which would send it veering off course. Hitting an iceberg is not like hitting a brick wall. In this case, the ice under the water would have torn open the bottom of the ship and caused damage to the sides. Icebergs also aren't flat, solid objects. If a flat collision happened, the ship might have stayed afloat, but icebergs come in many shapes and sizes, from domes to wedges. Studies have also been done on the steel used to produce Titanic, and the tests show the metal was about 10 times more brittle than the steel we use today. The ship was built before we understood the effects of low temperature on steel. The old steel used to make the vessel would not bend when faced with freezing temperatures, but break. Recovered pieces of Titanic's hull plates show that the hull just shattered on impact. Hitting head-on would also cause a very severe and abrupt stop, so even if the ship hadn't sunk, there would still have been major issues. Think about when you suddenly hit the brakes on your car, or when the bus stops while you're walking down the aisle and you get flung forward. Passengers would have been thrown across the ship, and because the crash happened at night, most people were sleeping, so wouldn't be able to effectively prepare for any sort of impact. This would result in injuries for most people on board. It would be especially bad for those at the front of the ship, where the accommodation for the off-duty firefighters, greasers, and engineers was. But while passengers and off-duty crew may have been thrown out of bed, there would be a lot more survivors than in the original scenario. Many ships have had head-on collisions and made it back to shore. Not many people know that Titanic actually had two sister ships. The White Star Line, the company that built Titanic, also built vessels called Britannic and Olympic. Captained by Edward J. Smith, who would later helm Titanic, the Olympic set off on its maiden voyage in June 1911. But much like Ford's sister ship, disaster was just around the corner. On its fifth commercial voyage, Olympic collided with a Royal Navy ship, HMS Hawke. While the Olympic received damage to its side, Hawke crashed into the other vessel head-on. The bow of the Hawke was completely crushed by the collision, but because the ship had watertight compartments, it managed to survive the impact and later returned to shore for repair. Another study case is the SS Andrea Doria, which was an Italian ocean liner that made global headlines in 1956. Like the Titanic, the Andrea Doria was heading for New York City on its 101st voyage when disaster struck. On July 25th, the vessel collided with the 524-foot Swedish passenger liner Stockholm. The Stockholm hit the ship head-on, but the point of impact for the Andrea Doria was on its side. The front of the Stockholm was completely smashed, but because the impact was on its hull, it managed to survive. The Andrea Doria, however, sadly sank due to the collision being on the side of the ship. So these cases could suggest that maybe the Titanic would have survived had it hit the iceberg head-on. But we have to remember that the Titanic hit the thing full speed, whereas both the Olympic and the Andrea Doria were traveling slower. Scaling a mountain, you're on a very fast pace. You and your friend had decided to go rock climbing since it was one of your New Year's resolutions. All of a sudden, rocks started falling down on you, bouncing and sliding, but nothing happened to you, not even a scratch. The universe is definitely on your side today. When you reached the top, you spotted a green leaf falling from the skies. But wait, it's a $100 bill. You grab it, but it all feels weird. Time to go back down. You want to try your luck more and decide to go down in one jump only. It's safe though. You've got your harness on. 1, 2, 3, a deep breath, and off you go. In less than no time, you've reached the ground. When your friend is back on the ground, you jump in a car and drive back home. The next day, you get up, take a quick shower, brush your teeth, and you're out the door, ready to hit the road. Bzz, bzz, it's your phone. Not a call, though, just an email from your boss. Well, this can't be good. You open the email and see there's great news. You're up for a promotion. All your hard work has paid off, and the boss noticed it. Feeling confident, you decide you're going to ask for not only the promotion, but also the chance to be up for a partner position. You're on the subway, heading to work, you look down, and again, another $100 bill. Wow, these $200 appeared out of nowhere. You're finally at your station. Running out, you're a bit late for work, so you're going at a faster pace than you usually do. Suddenly, you notice an ad with a competition, and the main prize is a car. It's the last day you can participate. Well, you're feeling lucky, and send a message with your name to take part in this competition. You'll know the results in a couple of hours. You're finally at work, and it's time for the meeting with your boss. The boss says, "Since you've joined the company, we've grown by 4%. You've got more accounts to your name than any other employee. Would you like to become a supervisor?" "That's not enough," you say. "I want to be a partner." The boss is shocked, and he says he needs some time to think about it. At lunchtime, you decide to try out a new place around the corner. As you're waiting at the traffic light, you see a girl with headphones on trying to cross the street at the red light. All of a sudden, you see a car speeding up, but the girl doesn't notice anything. You run up and pull her back to safety as fast as you can. "I'm Angela," she says. She's got the most beautiful green eyes you've ever seen, and she invites you to lunch to thank you. You end up in that place you wanted to visit. She recommends you should try the double bacon cheeseburger. That was the best meal you've had in months. At the end, she hands you her business card. It says she's a dentist. Angela also invites you to have a free professional teeth clean. Sounds great. You set an appointment. Bzzz. It's an unknown number calling you out of the blue, but you pick up. It's the competition jury member. Great news! They've chosen you to get that car. Right after you hang up, there's another call. Now it's your boss, and he wants to see you immediately. As you walk in the office, you see all the partners waiting for you. You're ready for the worst, but the boss says, "Congratulations! You're now our new partner. We're going to rebrand your office before long." It's 6 p.m. and it's time to go home. You've had a new car and a new position today, but the best part of it is Angela. Before the day ends, you decide to take a step further. You call her up and ask her out on a date tonight. 2 hours later, you're at her doorstep looking dapper. That suit cost exactly $200 you found. Her dress looks stunning too. She says she wanted to wear it for a special occasion just like this one. It's 11 p.m. You gave Angela a lift home. As soon as you're back home too, you get a message from your landlord asking you if you want the upstairs apartment as the previous tenants just moved out. The price is $300 less. You reply you accept it, almost falling asleep. It's a new day, and you have to get dressed. In the back of your closet, you find a blue ducky tie your mom gave you when you got your first job. You put it on to match it with your favorite gray suit, and as a lucky charm, of course. At the office, everyone's getting a kick out of your hilarious tie. "Great tie choice," says Bill. The receptionist loved it too. Your boss gives you a tap on the shoulder. You're startled, but as soon as you turn around, he winks at you. "Well done, reaching new heights. Here, let me show you your new office." Everything's brand new. "Oh, there's a little welcome surprise for you in the drawer. Unwrap it." You're nervous, but excited. You gulp before opening it, and there's a letter alongside the gift. You open the box immediately. It's a gold watch, and in the letter, all the partners are welcoming you to the team. The sun sets and the time flew by today. With all these meetings, you didn't even get a chance to look at your phone. There are 2 messages. "Call me, Angela," and before you can blink, you're dialing her number. She'd like to go out for dinner. You're in, so you book a table for tonight. Your haircut's been due for a while, and since you're meeting Angela, it's time to take care of it. At the barber's, you sit in the chair and say, "The usual please, a haircut and a little trim on the beard." When the barber finishes, he says, "This one's on the house. It's your 30th cut with us." You shake his hand and head to Angela. Walking to the restaurant, you see your friend Mike heading back home. You catch up with him and he tells you he has a 50-inch TV he's trying to get rid of. It's all yours if you want it. Of course! It's just perfect for your new bedroom. You bid him goodbye and start walking at a fast pace to the restaurant. You're eager to meet Angela, and your face shows it. There's a broad grin on your face you can't seem to shake off. You're a few blocks away now, and there's a store that's in liquidation. Everything's half off. You look at your new watch and it says you've still got about 20 minutes to pop in the store, so you go for it. It's a tech store, and people grab all they can see – phones, smartwatches, laptops. The place is swarming with customers, and this time you're probably out of luck. The laptop you actually wanted is already out of stock. You head out, but all of a sudden, somebody runs up to you and says, "Hey, I saw you looking at the laptop section. Take this laptop if you want. I decided I don't need it." Guess what? It's exactly the one you needed. You thank him and go to checkout. Next, you pop in a flower shop to pick up some green dahlias. They match Angela's eyes. When you finally arrive to the restaurant, you realize you're 2 minutes late. There she is, Angela, waiting for you at the entrance. "Hi, sorry I'm late. I've got you some flowers. They're green, just like your gorgeous eyes." Bold move, but you nailed it. She gives you a kiss on the cheek, and you go inside. The mood's perfect. The lights are low, the ambient music is nice, and the restaurant is not too crowded, so you talk and laugh. Right before you both finish your meals, she says, "The food's delicious. How did you find this restaurant?" You explained that last weekend you were a bit lazy, sweatpants at home kind of mood. You ordered some Chinese food delivery, and it was so delicious you thought she might try it too. A fortune cookie came along with your food delivery. It said, "Next week, your luck's going to change." And so, it did.
You're living the dream, vacationing across the Americas. One fine day, you stop by a food vendor and order a delicious empanada. It's so crunchy and yummy, and oh no, what is that? As you can only identify half of a cockroach's body. This means that the other half is now swimming its way down your digestive system. Now what? Does this mean you'll turn into a similar insect-like creature in that famous Kafka book? Nah, unfortunately, you won't live through any metamorphosis. Let's see what happens to that poor little insect. First of all, if you haven't missed school, you know that digestion starts at the mouth. Saliva contains a lot of special enzymes that help digest the starches in your food. In other words, saliva is acidic and starts to break that roach down. So probably if it was alive, it began to pass away right then and there. This means that by the time it makes it to your stomach, it's most likely gone for good. Contrary to your biggest fear, it will not start walking around in your tummy. You see, your experience with this insect has been terrible so far. You've seen this little dude eating the pages of your favorite books. You've seen it squeeze its way in tiny holes when you tried going after it. And you've seen it coming in and out of sewers like it's their playground. So it's normal for you to think, "Oh no, will I get sick?" Hopefully not. I like to think that since you swallowed such a small piece of it, your immune system will probably take care of it without any big damage to your body. But there is a chance that you'll get similar symptoms to when you have the flu. Apparently, cockroaches contain a specific type of protein in their bodies that can give people allergies. It could affect your respiratory system, so you'd find yourself having stuff like a runny nose, an itchy throat, some random rashes, and so on. Since you're a natural truth seeker, while that cockroach is being digested in your intestines, you decide to become the world's next cockroach expert. Surprisingly, this does take the edge off. Fun fact about roaches, they can hold their breath underwater for up to 30 minutes. This means that if they weren't affected by the acid in your stomach, they could probably survive quite some time in there. That's also how they circle around so comfortably inside sewers. But that's disgusting, so we should change the imagery. Even though they are kind of icky insects. A lot of cultures in the world do eat cockroaches. They are considered highly proteic, like many insects. These roaches that you can find in big food markets weren't taken off the streets, though. They were born and raised in cockroach farms. I mean, can you imagine that? They're popular because they're cheap, and they can be raised in pretty large quantities at once. On a brighter note, did you know that if you actually did swallow a cockroach, it would be like swallowing a dinosaur? I mean, they're not technically dinosaurs, but roaches were the first and only creatures to be discovered living in caves, before the dinosaurs were wiped out some 60 million years ago. So next time someone asks you what your favorite meal is, maybe you can say, "That prehistoric empanada I had once when I was traveling the world." After a few hours, you're looking at your experience from a different point of view. Who knew you wouldn't be traumatized by swallowing a live cockroach, but rather You'd want to get more intimate with them as a species. Walking down the street, you see some roaches circling around and even decide to name them. That one is Anchor, for example, and it's a baby cockroach. You recently discovered that a one-day-old cockroach can already run as fast as its parents. And gasp, but there are over 4,000 different species of cockroaches worldwide. Who would have known? You post all about your emotional journey with roaches on social media, and a lot of people seem to have an opinion on what might happen to you. They were all wrong, though. It's been over 8 hours already, and that half of a cockroach you ate has probably already been absorbed by your body. That's when your phone rings, and Peter, a close friend of yours, is panicking on the other end of the line. Man, I was taking a nap with my mouth open, and I think I just swallowed a whole spider. And no, unfortunately, the outcome of this story is not him becoming the next Spider-Man. You see, there's a popular myth that someone started spreading around many years ago that humans usually swallow up to a pound of spiders while sleeping during one lifetime. But that's not true. It's very difficult for a human to swallow a spider unintentionally. The main reason for this has to do with spiders themselves. Humans are huge creatures, and often spiders will see us as a part of the landscape, just like a couch, stairs, or a piece of furniture. Secondly, if they did get close enough to us, the bizarre sounds we make while sleeping would scare them away. Our snoring and even our breathing vibrate intensely, and this is enough to keep a spider away from us. Only a small number of spider species actually share the space of our homes with us, unless you live in Australia, of course. And they usually live in quiet corners, not bothering us humans much. Plus, we hardly ever swallow while we're sleeping. The average human spends a long time of their sleeping period without swallowing. It means that the time gap between one swallow and another, the itsy-bitsy spider would have been far gone from Peter's mouth. I think he just wanted a story as hype as yours to share online. Here's a plot twist, though. What if what happened to you were to happen the other way around? I mean, what if you were swallowed by a live cockroach instead? Now I know what you're thinking. This would only be possible in the plot of a Harry Potter or some cheesy sci-fi movie, but bear with me. You find yourself shrinking in size until your field of vision is dominated by this humongous animal. From where you're standing, you can see its furry legs, and oh my, those look like some weird replacement for teeth. In its eyes, you're probably just another insect that belongs to its wide range of culinary options. Unfortunately for you, roaches will eat almost anything they come across. It's getting closer and closer. Every time it moves its legs, the floor beneath you trembles. You try to run, but it outruns you, and yikes, you've just got swallowed by this beast. A quick check of your surroundings. It's dark and damp and quite smelly. Over to your right, you have what looks like a piece of fruitcake. To your right, a bygone insect. You start to feel a little out of the fresh air, but manage to get a bit of oxygen when the roach opens its mouth to eat yet another piece of something. Its digestive tract looks pretty big, and by its size, you try to figure out how big your cockroach buddy must be. You know that one of the biggest cockroaches alive measures around 6 inches. I mean, that's the size of an American $1 bill. It's so big that you could probably build a racetrack and do some exercise while you wait to be digested. What's that waterfall forming on the horizon? Ew, how gross. I think it's the roach's intestinal juice that's about to fall down upon you. In a few minutes, them enzymes will break you down like a 5-star meal. A few hours ago, you were living your dream vacation, and now you're on the inside of the very creature you've been trying to avoid your entire life. Let's find out something awesome about poisons. No, this is not another video with the top 10 of the most venomous animals. There will be several of them here, but the point is different. We're going to find out about the nature of these substances, which are dangerous for any living creature. There are 2 glasses in front of you. The first one is full of sour milk, and the other has the venom of one of the most dangerous snakes in the world, Vipera aspis. What do you think? The liquid from which glass can cause negative consequences for your health. The correct answer is sour milk. It can cause bloating, indigestion, and heartburn. But if you drink the snake's venom, nothing will happen. The fact is that this substance is a particular type of protein. and gastric juice splits this protein like any other food. The toxin contained in the poison is dangerous only in contact with blood. Therefore, if you have a wound in your mouth or stomach, then you'll have problems. But as long as the toxin stays away from the blood circulatory system, you needn't worry. However, it doesn't always work like that. Some animals secrete a poison that penetrates your body at the slightest physical contact. But venomous beasts have to deliver this dangerous substance inside your blood. And by the way, this is the difference between poisonous and venomous. In the first case, these are animals that can poison you passively. For example, if you touch them. They don't make any effort, and the poison is released from their bodies constantly. The poison dart frog just hangs out in the jungles of South America and doesn't attack anyone. But everyone is afraid to touch it because its skin secretes one of the most dangerous poisons on Earth. The toxin particles contained in the poison of these animals are so tiny that they easily get through the pores of your skin and cause an intense reaction in your body. But venomous animals have bigger toxin particles that can get inside your body only through injection. Venomous animals bite and sting to deliver the venom to blood. Venomous snakes, wasps, spiders, and other creatures use venom to attack prey. Poisonous frogs or fish covered with poisonous skin use toxins to defend themselves. That's the difference. One of the most venomous creatures in the world is the box jellyfish. When it stings, it injects a powerful toxin into its enemy, affecting the nervous system and skin cells. They are dangerous not only for sea creatures, but also for people. The toxin acts quickly and can lead to serious health problems within minutes. One of the most poisonous creatures in the world besides the poison dart frog is the puffer fish. Yeah, that famous Japanese delicacy. Many have probably heard that if the cook prepares this fish incorrectly, it can be poisonous even after heat treatment. This fish's toxin is 1,000 times more potent than cyanide. The amount of poison inside one puffer fish contains enough toxin to seriously harm several dozen people. When the fish feels danger, it swallows a lot of air along with water and increases in size. In this state, its needles, which contain the toxin, become even more dangerous. So never touch this fish if you see it in the sea. There's the third type of use of venom. It's called intraspecific competition. You can find it in venomous mammals such as the Australian platypus. There are tiny needles on their palms that secrete toxins. A platypus can paralyze an opponent with a kick. But these animals also use poison during mating competitions. Their bodies enhance the properties of the toxins to defeat competitors during the fight for a female. Two males struggle to weaken each other. The male whose poison is more effective wins the battle. Some animals have to bite and sting to use venom, while others just wait for someone else's touch. But what about this little creature that releases its poison like a dart? Meet the cone snail. It hides inside its home and waits for a little fish to swim closer. Then it releases a toxic harpoon from its proboscis and paralyzes the fish. Then the snail swallows the prey whole, like an anaconda. The venom of this small animal is also dangerous for humans as it causes severe problems with breathing, vision, and other issues. At the same time, the substance contained in the poison of the cone snail is used by doctors to make a powerful analgesic. And this is not the only case when animal venom is used in medicine. A poisonous lizard called the Gila monster releases a neurotoxin produced in the salivary gland during a bite. Because of this venom, the bite of this animal is considered one of the most painful in the world. People who were attacked by the Gila monster said that they had experienced a feeling as if hot lava was flowing through their veins. However, such a terrible poison can be useful for humans. Scientists have discovered a hormone in it that can effectively treat diabetes. Some poisons cause muscle paralysis, others can create breathing problems, and others raise blood pressure. But why are they all different? Well, all these differences depend on the prey that venomous animals hunt. For example, most vipers prey on small mammals with a fast metabolism. Therefore, reptiles have developed venom that disrupts blood clotting, resulting in a fast-running hare quickly losing control of its body. However, for cold-blooded animals, such a stratagem would be less effective. That's why some types of cobras produce neurotoxic venom that can stop the transmission inside the nervous system. Such a substance effectively strikes the organisms of cold-blooded creatures. All this suggests that venomous and poisonous creatures adapt their toxins depending on their habitat. That's why venoms of the same species can differ so much. If a viper bit you in one region of a large country, an antidote from another region might not help you. In places with more complex conditions for survival, snakes can develop more dangerous venom to repel enemy attacks or catch fast prey. But this principle also works the other way around. Put Put a group of snakes in an environment where they can easily catch food and don't have to defend themselves from other animals. This type of snake may eventually become non-venomous. This is because producing venom is a complicated process that requires a lot of energy and resources from the organism. And if the conditions don't require using this substance, then snakes will stop producing it. This happened with sea snakes. They are some of the most venomous animals on Earth that hunt fish at the bottom of the sea. Since their prey was much faster than them, they had to develop a strong venom that would quickly paralyze fish. But one of sea snake species stopped getting food this way. Instead of hunting fish, they began to eat fish eggs. This prey doesn't run away, so snakes don't need venom anymore. Eventually, they stopped producing it. How many animals on the planet do you think are poisonous and venomous? According to scientists' calculations, about 15 to 20%. But most likely, this number is much higher because people haven't fully studied all the biodiversity of such creatures. Interestingly, almost every species of animal has a poisonous or venomous kind. Even among mammals, the platypus is not the only venomous creature. The slow loris seems like a cute, harmless animal. Still, this primate from Southeast Asia secretes venom from its teeth during a bite. Also, some species of shrews produce venom in the same way to paralyze their prey, and vampire bats are the only poisonous flying mammals in the whole world. Okay, we have a large number of poisonous and venomous animals today, but what about the past? Many scientists believe that millions of years ago, venomous dinosaurs walked the Earth. Some studies have confirmed this hypothesis. The venomous glands and tissues of these formidable reptiles haven't survived to our times. But in the teeth of some dinosaurs, scientists found small gaps that modern venomous snakes and lizards have. It's possible that prehistoric monsters also used these holes to secrete venom through them.
Now get a load of this. A red whirlwind sweeps along the coast of Australia and heads toward the nearest city. This tornado is unique, not by its color, but by what is hidden inside it. These are great white sharks, hammerhead sharks, tiger sharks, and bull sharks. Shark! They fly inside the hurricane, snapping their jaws and trying to grab a piece of meat. People who look at this bizarre phenomenon from the outside think that they've got something in their drinks. But this is reality. A shark tornado can really exist? Or not? Yeah, let's find out. In 1877, a rather unusual tornado struck a farm in Southern California. About 6 small alligators, about 1 foot in length, fell from the sky that day. In 1894, a tornado traveled through England and dropped poisonous jellyfish on people. There's a version that tadpoles instead of jellyfish fell on the ground that day, but it still sounds quite strange. In Kentucky in 1876, there was a black humor rain. Doesn't sound funny to me. Pieces of meat fell from the sky. The locals tasted them and said it was like mutton or venison. However, later, birds discovered that a flock of buzzards had flown over that area. The birds felt unwell and regurgitated their lunch right in the air. And then, I assume, so did the locals who tried it. In 1947, fish fell from the sky in Marksville, Louisiana. In 2005, there was a rain that contained thousands of frogs in Serbia. In 2010, a small town in Australia was hit by a rain of perches, fish. And now, imagine that all these strange phenomena were caused by one villainous corporation where evil geniuses work. And one of them is you. So, you decide to make the most incredible natural cataclysm in history, a tornado of sharks, or Sharknado. It seems like it's impossible, but you're going to try, because you have nothing better to do. So first, we need to understand what a waterspout is. It's a column of rotating air filled with clouds. This vortex occurs during a thunderstorm when warm air releases a large amount of heat. This heat becomes the energy that moves the rising air currents. This warm, moist air goes up, and cold, dry air descends. The difference in temperatures preserves instability and helps tornadoes develop. When it forms over the water, a tornado becomes a waterspout. It can draw in particles of seawater, some objects, and even fish. But everything depends on the strength of this vortex. You've probably seen it when tornadoes lifted cars into the air or tore the roofs off of buildings. There's a video on the internet where a tornado raises cows into the air, and an ordinary cow weighs about 1,400 pounds. Ooh. Now, in comparison, the great white shark is about 4,400 pounds. If a tornado could lift several cows, it could cope with a shark. But besides the great white one, there are tiger sharks, bull sharks, and hammerhead sharks. All of them weigh less. Therefore, there's no doubt that a tornado could possibly lift them into the air too. Okay, now we can assume it's in the realm of possibilities. The next step is to create a real tornado. To do this, you need to heat the air and then make it rotate. The cold air will start to go down and you will get a whirlwind. One engineer from Canada named Lewis built devices that created tornadoes. He made several prototypes before assembling a real vortex engine. According to him, anyone can do it. However, these vortices were small. His device created thin jets of air that swirled and produced mini tornadoes, which then quickly dissipated due to strong winds. Lewis started developing this idea to get a new source of electricity, but he needed to create a giant vortex that would go into the sky to power several houses. He didn't have enough finances and opportunities to do this, but the place where you work has enough money to do it. You take the concept of the vortex engine and invest several $1,000,000. You build several large turbines that direct air to one point and then heat it with the help of a powerful generator. To give your tornado more destructive power, you electrify the atmosphere. You can control the tornado and change its direction using a special control panel. You little evil mad scientist, you. So you come to the coast of Australia, where there are many sharks of different species. To force them to gather in one place, you must throw several tons of minced meat into the water near the shore. Let me suggest that you don't do this by hand. The sharks immediately come there as soon as they smell the food. But there's a problem. These animals feel changes in the weather and don't approach the center of the storm. Therefore, to make sharks take risks, you need to make them angry and hungry enough. You go, Dr. Doofenshmirtz! You spend millions of dollars to organize large-scale fishing. You throw huge nets into the water, and within a week catch all the fish, shellfish, and other marine life that can become dinner for sharks. You move all the prey into giant aquariums and wait for the sharks to get hungry. A few days later, you notice many big fish congregating near the shore, looking for food. Then, you buy a couple of tons of ground beef from several butcher shops. You put it in a large container and lift it with the help of a helicopter. You dump the meat in a place where you see a lot of sharks. Lunch attracts fish within a 1-mile radius. At this moment, a large ship with the tornado generator approaches the shore. Hey, can't quit now, right? You start the engines and strong flows of warm air accumulate in the sky. Electricity flashes and condensation creates rain. A powerful vortex begins to form in the sky. You control it and direct it towards the sharks. The whirlwind pulls pieces of ground beef from the water. The dust particles mix with the meat and the tornado turns red. Oh, I think I'm gonna barf. You increase the strength of the wind and see how the sharks begin to rise into the air. More precisely, they jump out of the water to grab the meat and the tornado picks them up. When several sharks are inside the vortex, you direct them toward the shore. People are running in horror. Some sharks fall back into the water and some fall to the beach. The hammerhead shark falls right into the kitchen of a coastal restaurant and eats the whole menu. The shark is also a pig. You direct the sharknado into the city. The storm lifts trees and cars into the air and rips off the roofs of houses. Some sharks fall down to the streets. People are running in different directions. The shark vortex passes through the city, scattering sharks. Of course, sharks don't crawl on the ground and don't try to eat people. They're just in shock and don't understand what's going on. Hey, what can I say? It's a PG sharknado. Even in the ocean, sharks don't like to bite people. All attacks occur because sharks mistake them for seals or other sea creatures, which all look like food. Also, toothy fish can swim up to people out of curiosity. And now they're disoriented and having big breathing problems. Fish need a constant flow of water passing through their oxygen-extracting gills. Depending on the species, sharks can last without water for several minutes to an hour. At this moment, you realize that you have carried out not a villainous plan, but a stupid thing that has caused so many fish to suffer. Now, you need to fix everything. You have several helicopters that can transport the fish back into the ocean, but they're twitching and snapping their jaws in fear. Therefore, to calm them down, you use darts with sedatives. Then you help rescuers to fasten the sharks to the helicopters and lift them into the air. You have to get one fish out of an apartment on the 7th floor. Another shark was lying in the park. A hammerhead caused a big traffic jam on the road, and this tiger shark fell on a fire truck. Fortunately, they all have tough skin and strong muscles that protect them from damage. You pick up all the sharks and move them back to the ocean. No one and nothing has been hurt except for one thing: your reputation. You have failed your villainous plan and need to develop something new. This time, you'll create something that will really terrify people. You will invent a YouTube channel with nothing but ads. Alternate ending. You will invent a mega flood of spiders. Ew.
Have you ever wondered why all planets are perfectly round? And what if these celestial bodies decided to break the rules and change their shape? Would we end up with square planets, triangular moons, or maybe even intergalactic shapes we can't even imagine? Well, let's find out. So how do planets form in the first place? The universe is filled with swirling clouds of dust and gas. These clouds, called molecular clouds, consist of various elements and compounds, such as hydrogen, helium, carbon, oxygen, and so on. They're like a cosmic kitchen filled with the ingredients needed to cook up some brand new planets. The first step in the recipe for planetary formation is called the accretion theory. Let's say that something happens that causes gravitational instability, like a supernova goes off nearby or something. This pushes the gas and dust in the cloud and causes them to come together. Because of gravity, these particles start falling toward a central point. They become more tightly packed together, like when you squeeze a ball in your hand. And eventually, they're squeezed so hard that the cloud starts to flatten into a disc shape. Kind of like when you mix flour and water to make pizza dough. This disk is called a protoplanetary disk. It's also spinning because the cloud's particles had some rotation to begin with. Now, imagine these tiny dust particles and gas molecules dancing around in the disk. Sometimes they bump into each other, and when they do, they stick together like Velcro. These little clumps of dust and gas are called planetesimals. They're the building blocks of planets. And as the planetesimals continued to collide and merge, they grew larger and larger, forming protoplanets. The protoplanets were getting serious about their size, and their gravity became stronger. Some of them got so massive that they became the grand masters of their cosmic neighborhoods, the planets we know and love. Each planet had its own unique recipe of gases, rocks, and sometimes even water. But why do the planets look like spheres? Well, it's all because of gravity. Let's go back to our protoplanets. Imagine you're squeezing a balloon with your hands. The air inside of the balloon pushes back, creating pressure. Something similar happens with planets. Gravity squeezes its material inward, pulling in towards the center. And since gravity acts equally in all directions, it pulls material from all sides toward the center of mass, resulting in a sphere-like shape. And that material pushes back with pressure, resisting the force of gravity. In the end, they both find a sweet spot where they balance each other out. It's called hydrostatic equilibrium, a fancy term that means everything inside a planet is in balance. But that's not all. Another thing that makes the planet spherical is their rotation. Think about a ball of Play-Doh or something like that. Imagine you spin it rapidly. The material starts to push outward, making the Play-Doh bulge at the equator and flatten at the poles. The same thing happens to planets. As they spin on their axes, the combination of gravity and rotation pushes the material outward, making the planet bulge at the equator. They low-key want to become disks again. However, gravity doesn't want any lumpy planets. It wants them to be nice and round, so it keeps pulling on the material, trying to make everything as compact as possible. Eventually, gravity wins, and the planet settles into a spherical shape. Let's take some examples from our planetary playlist. Jupiter, the giant of the solar system, loves to show off its oblateness. It spins so fast that it becomes noticeably squished at the poles and chubby in the middle. It's like a spinning top with a cute belly. Saturn, the ringed wonder, also joins the oblate party. It spins around with its beautiful rings, and its oblateness is even more pronounced than Jupiter's. These examples show how rotation can give planets a unique shape. They go from being perfectly round to having a delightful bulge around the middle. It's like cosmic pottery, where the spinning motion creates a playful and distinct shape. So now you know why the planets are round. But what's more interesting is, what if they weren't? What if they were, let's say, cubical? Or even triangular? Well, let's see. A cube-shaped or a triangle-shaped planet would have its mass spread out in a completely different way than a sphere. And you know what that means? Gravity would be all shook up too. On a spherical planet, gravity pulls everything towards the center because the mass is evenly distributed around that center. But when we introduce a cube-shaped or triangle-shaped planet, things get interesting. If you're standing at the center of one of those faces, you'd feel the strongest pull of gravity. That's because the faces are the closest to the center of gravity. And as you venture away from the center and start walking towards the edges, gravity starts playing tricks on you. You would feel the struggle against the steep-angled gravity. Walking on those edges would feel just like climbing a mountain or walking on a super steep slope. All because gravity wants you right in the middle of the face and nowhere else. Now imagine the terrain along the edges and corners. It's a barren, rocky, and dry landscape. Why? Well, all the water would pool in at the center of each face, leaving the edges high and dry. And the air quality? Well, it's either non-existent or so thin that it can't support life. Not the coziest place to set up camp, that's for sure. And don't forget your warm clothes, lunch, and hiking boots. You'll need them because of the crazy climate. The type of climate you'll encounter on our cube or triangle-shaped Earth depends on how it spins. If it rotates at its corners, each side would enjoy a mild, temperate climate. However, if it rotates on an axis through two of its faces, things get intense. Picture a roller coaster version of our current climate. Some faces would be polar wonderlands, icy and chilly. The top and bottom faces for the cube, and the bottom face for the triangle. Meanwhile, the other sides would be completely different. In a cube, they would be scorching hot with an equatorial climate that would make you break a sweat. Instead of sunlight gently curving along the surface, it would directly beam onto these faces. Talk about feeling the heat. And on a triangular planet, the sunlight would strike the faces at an angle. This angled sunlight would create fascinating temperature variations across the planet. Imagine this. As you move from the base of the triangle towards the tip, the temperatures would gradually decrease. The base, where the sunlight hits most directly, would be the hottest region, just like the equatorial climate we're familiar with on our spherical Earth. But as you venture towards the tip, the angle of sunlight would be less direct, leading to cooler temperatures. But the base is still super cold and dark, since the sunlight doesn't directly reach it. So the triangle would be absolutely crazy in terms of temperature changes and climate zones. By the way, you know that cozy blanket of air we call the atmosphere? Well, on our angular Earth, things would get a little topsy-turvy. Gravity would be pulling stronger from the center of each face. The result? The atmosphere would go through some crazy changes. Picture this. At the center of each face, where gravity is strongest, the atmosphere would gather and thicken. It would be like a bustling city, full of air molecules. But as you venture towards the edges, things would start to thin out. The atmosphere would become scarce and very thin. So breathing along the edges would be quite a challenge, and the edges would be a tough neighborhood for life to thrive. Moreover, a thinner atmosphere means less protection from the sun's radiation and solar winds, so corners and edges would be extremely dangerous for humans. Of course, this is all just a playful exploration of what could be. Our Earth loves its spherical shape, and that's a good thing. But there's no harm in imagining wild and wonderful possibilities, so keep your imagination soaring and continue to marvel at the marvels of our amazing planet, however it may be shaped.
Ah, the stage is set. You're in the spotlight, and everyone is looking at you. The piano's glossy texture shines brightly in the light. You lay your fingers on the keys and start playing. Since you have 20 fingers on each hand, you can hit multiple notes and make the sound richer. Each piano chord can have extra octaves and additional notes now with 40 fingers on the piano. After you finish, everyone stands up and claps for you. The sound of clapping is so loud since the palms are huge to fit 20 fingers on each hand. Now you're in a boat in the middle of a lake, ready to go for a swim. Your friend pushes you in and races you to the shore. Since you both have 20 fingers and toes on each limb, it's easy to swim and paddle. They act like natural rudders. You beat him and make it to shore. After that, you swim back to the boat, paddling with your hands and feet. After swimming, you go for a hike and notice a nice wall to scale. You get your gear ready and place each large palm on a nice fitting rock. Your grip is tight and you hang on to many different rocks that aren't the typical size of a 10-fingered rock. You manage to climb to the top and see the breathtaking view of the countryside. An iron suit and a confident smile. Yup, you're ready to nail that interview. You walk into the building like you own it and wait for someone to escort you to the CEO's office. Everyone notices your confidence and smart look. You're called in for your interview. You unleash your disarming smile and pop your suit up. You enter the room and extend it for a sturdy handshake. With 20 fingers, you release a pressurized grip that leaves the CEO impressed and eager to know more about you. You leave the building gleaming with a winner's attitude, and it's not long before they call you back for another interview. Okay, you've got this. 20 grocery bags in the trunk of your car and one trip. The road is long and has lots of curves and hills. You stretch your fingers and crack your knuckles. You plan out the weight distribution so you can have it evenly divided on each hand. With 20 fingers, you grip different bags and hold 10 on each hand. It's heavy, but hey, think of it as a leg and shoulder workout. You take them out of your trunk and make it quickly across the plain all the way to your house. Success! In one trip, you managed to get all the bags except one. Oh wait, never mind. You put the bag inside another bag before you left. But you do need to go back to your car and close the trunk. After a long day at work, you need to meet up with a friend you haven't seen in a long time, and you've been working way too hard today. On the way, you see a nail salon. You hop in for a quick manicure. But with 20 fingers on each hand, it's like doing a treatment for 2 people. Time is ticking, and you only have one hand done. Your friend calls you and tells you that she's waiting for you at the coffee shop. On to your next hand. After a while, you finish and rush to meet your friend. You're late, but at least you look good. You're attending a new tech launch with dozens of people showcasing all the new products. Many of the phones are slightly larger than phones suited for 10 fingers and 2-handed people. The phones are large enough to be considered mini tablets. You pick up a sample phone and click away. Since you've got 4 thumbs, typing on the keyboard is smooth and easy. The screen is long enough to be supported by the rest of your fingers on each hand. You move over to the computers and see something interesting that catches your eye. A laptop with a wide keyboard for your fingers to type effortlessly. You open a file and type away. You're surprised at how easy it is to write a quick document. Too bad you have to wait until it's officially launched so that you can get your hands on one of these bad boys. You're at the gym warming up and getting ready for the next exercise. You enter a boxing ring and practice sparring with a boxing bag. Since you have 20 fingers on each hand, each fist you lay on it is stronger and louder than with a regular 10-finger fist. After each punch, you stretch your body and continue sparring. You move on to other exercises to get ready for the big day. You're in the forest practicing your bow and arrow aim. You line up 2 cans side by side, and another 2 cans side by side. You take your bow and extend it backwards with 10 fingers on each hand. You place 2 arrows neatly and let loose. You strike both cans with ease. Now, let's up the ante by adding 4 cans next to each other. You turn your bow sideways and retract the arrows until there's enough pressure to release. You pull back and let the arrows fly off. Another success! You knock out 4 cans without breaking a sweat. If you have 20 fingers on each hand, then you'll need at least 7 or 8 bullseye targets next to each other. The bows will be long, but keeping a good aim won't be so easy. After much concentration, you release the arrows and hit all of them right in the middle. Having 50 fingers on each hand will alter the way you look and walk. Your hands will be heavy, so you'll need a powerful set of arms to keep balance and support your fingers. Everything will be large, including your phone and laptop. A guitar will be designed to accommodate the number of fingers that can play around the fretboard. If a regular guitar has 6 strings on the neck, then these monster guitars can have an easy 30 to 40. The music won't be limited to human design and can achieve so much more. Every musical instrument can be designed to suit the current physical conditions, like having 50 fingers on each hand, like a trumpet, piano, harp, and saxophone. A 3-piece band will sound like an orchestra, and an orchestra will sound like, well, 5 orchestras. You're chilling at home playing some video games with your friend. Each control is the size of a coffee table. A hand that can support 50 fingers on each hand is no joke, so a controller is supported by a little stand pinned to the ground. There are so many buttons and pad controls that it's easy to get lost just by looking at it. You're playing a game of soccer while controlling each player in the game individually. With such power to move and coordinate 100 fingers in total, your brain is larger than average, and your multitasking skills are on point. In the end, you beat him. And after a rematch, he beat you. In the third game, you both hit a stalemate. You prepare a high five and slap his 50-finger palm with yours, producing sound waves that reach your neighbors across the street. A lot of fingers on each hand means that tangible and ergonomic things have to be a lot bigger than average. Going to a jewelry shop is a headache since you have to find the right ring that fits any of the 50 fingers on each hand. Producing any glove is a multi-billion-dollar industry since each glove costs so much to make. Drawing is also a challenge since holding a regular-sized pen isn't easy to simply draw something. Each pen and stationery equipment are 10 times bigger than what we have today, and also cost a lot more to make than regular-sized pens. Glasses of water are longer or fatter, so that you can properly grip them. The hand is a lot bigger, and the fingers go around the palm and resemble a sunflower. If you're hot, you can fan yourself with your hand instead of a regular fan. It'll be easier to scoop up some sand if you're building a sandcastle at the beach. With so much more space in your hand, you can make sand balls and create a mega-sized castle super fast. And if you're playing a game of snowballs, then get ready to have cannonballs instead of normal-sized snowballs. Oh, that gets smart!
You're sitting in a car in a space shopping mall parking lot. You've just bought a gift for your sister's birthday and should have time to get it to the celebration. Today, there are a lot of people in the mall, so it's difficult to leave the parking lot. Finally, you're approaching the gate. You press the button next to the steering wheel and activate the gravity cushion. It allows the car to hover above the ground at several inches. The car wheels are sliding inside the body, and a huge turbine is coming out of the trunk. The front glass becomes a touch panel with many buttons and screens. The gate opens, the turbine releases a flame, and your car flies out of the parking lot, right into outer space. Thousands of flying cars are rushing past you on an invisible space highway. You're moving away from the mall, which looks like a huge space station surrounded by holograms of advertising brands. Before Earth, you need to get to Mars. There, you want to repair the car's engine. The navigator plans a route to the red planet, and you go on your way. You're far from Earth's orbit, so you can get to Mars in several hours. You activate the autopilot and decide to take a little nap. It's 2048. The world's population has exceeded 20 billion people. There's too little space on Earth. Humanity is not ready to colonize other planets yet. So scientists and engineers from all countries start building huge space stations. This unloads the planet by more than 50%. The stations look like huge rings. They imitate the Earth's atmosphere, have artificial gravity and vegetation. People move to stations, but often return to Earth. Rockets fly between the planet and orbit, but such transport is expensive and inconvenient. Automakers make efforts at creating super reactive flying cars. Some years later, people slowly colonize the Moon and Mars. Now, getting to the red planet is as easy as getting to the neighboring city. Cars fly along certain routes that are similar to airways for planes. Engineers create special digital highways that can only be seen through the windshield. Of course, you can fly through space as you like, in any direction. But if you fly to a mall or the moon, you have to stick to the established digital route. You wake up and approach Mars. People almost don't live here because of the unfavorable atmosphere and difficult weather conditions. But Mars has the biggest service center for cars and the coolest amusement theme park in the solar system. To get there, people have to stand in a space traffic jam for hours. The dashboard shows you have some problems with the turbine. You put on a spacesuit, take a laser screwdriver, and get out of the car. You're in zero gravity, flying up to the turbine and fixing the problem with the screwdriver. There are thousands of cars around you. People are yawning inside, listening to music, and watching movies. You get into the vehicle and slowly move on. The engine or turbine often fails in the middle of a space highway. When this happens, your car activates its emergency mode. The dashboard automatically sends a signal to the nearest repair team. You're just floating in space and waiting until the mechanics arrive. They tow the car to the nearest auto service. You have enough oxygen inside for a couple of days, and if you run out of it, you can ask for help on the internet. Good people flying by will stop and share their oxygen supplies with you. Finally, you get to the car service station. Mechanics install a new super jet engine for your car and repair the turbine. There's not much time left, and you promised your sister you wouldn't be late. You get into the car and leave the Martian orbit at full speed. The new engine runs silently and doesn't shake the car. You increase the speed and fly along an almost empty digital highway. On your way, you meet a lot of small satellites showing holographic ads. Fortunately, you have an ad blocker. You turn it on, and the space banners become invisible through your windshield. Finally, you see a small blue dot. This is Earth. At this moment, you remember that you need to feed your dog. You leave the route and fly to the moon. There you have a small cottage with a house, which you bought for a small price last year. People can't change the atmosphere of entire planets yet, but you can install a small dome and fill it with oxygen. Inside your dome, you've built a house, a swimming pool, and even a small vegetable garden. In the past, people went to the countryside to take a break from the city bustle. Now, everyone just buys houses on the moon. You fly through the dome, land on the white surface, and put food into a dog bowl. They're renovating your apartment on the space ring, so you live on the moon with your dog for a while. You can see other cars flying up into the neighboring domes. Some vehicles are elite supercars with a large gravity cushion and ultra-reactive engines. They can fly 10 times faster than the speed of sound and have artificial intelligence that can talk to the driver. There are also old, rusty space cars. Sometimes people attach a jet engine to an ordinary car and cover the body with a mix of copper, iron, and silver to travel over long distances in a cold vacuum. You can also see a lot of taxis in outer space. Sometimes, getting to the moon is cheaper than getting to the other end of some city on Earth. The reason is traffic jams on the Earth's roads. Also, there are a lot of flying buses in space. Every day, several flights depart on the Earth to Moon to Mars route. People are constantly building something on Mars. The huge car service and the amusement park are done. Now they're creating a scientific center there to study interstellar jumps. Of course, engineers need building materials for such construction projects. Several times a week, long trains fly from Earth to Mars along a separate space route. Initially, trains carried people, but they became unprofitable. It's much cheaper and faster to get to Mars by your own car or bus. Finally, you're leaving the moon and approaching the Earth. The dashboard signals you're out of fuel, so you decide to stop at a gas station. These stations are everywhere. They're fully automated, controlled by artificial intelligence. You're flying up to one of them. The fuel pump is automatically connected to your gas tank. The super-reactive engine consumes improved rocket fuel instead of gas. You transfer money to the station through the touch panel and fly away. Hundreds of digital space highways lead to Earth, and every road is filled with cars. Traffic jams again. There are security checkpoints in the upper layers of the atmosphere. Customs services check documents and car trunks. While standing in traffic, you're watching garbage trucks. A lot of space debris is floating around. Slow-flying trucks controlled by artificial intelligence collect garbage in huge containers. Then, they fly away from Earth's orbit and unhook the containers. These garbage cans have little turbines that let containers fly far beyond our solar system. Then, they heat up and burn all the garbage from the inside. Finally, you pass all the checkpoints and fly into the middle layers of the atmosphere. Our planet looks like a huge cyberpunk world, but only lighter and more beautiful. Huge cars disperse the clouds to improve visibility. Firefighter flying ships are coming to one of the stations where a fire started. You encounter hundreds of gas stations, air hotels, cinemas, and shopping malls in the sky before you reach the ground. You're approaching a parking building. This is an 80-story skyscraper filled with cars. People leave their vehicles and use elevators to go down. Fortunately, there's a place near your sister's house where you can park your car. You land, put your hand on the passenger seat to take the gift, and oh no! It looks like you left it on the moon. You're walking through the park with your lovely little poodle. You throw the ball. The pet runs after it and brings it back. You throw again, and he's running happily. Then, he stops. The poodle freezes, shivers, then turns around and looks at you. Get it, Snowball? But he doesn't listen. Then, you approach the ball, pick it up, and look at the dog. Snowball stares at you with a piercing look. You throw the ball next to him. Snowball, take it. The dog puts his paw on the ball, then slowly shakes his head as a sign of refusal. You're a little scared and look around. You notice some other people in the park also have problems with their pets. Some dogs are barking at their owners, others are running around. Your poodle looks at you like you've done something bad. Then it goes away. You're running after Snowball, asking him to come back. You leave the park and find yourself on the road. You can hear the creaking of tires nearby. Several people are running in your direction. They're scared. You try to ask them what's happened, but after a second, you understand it yourself. Several elephants, zebras, lions, and gorillas are moving along the road. They jump on cars, demolish hydrants, knock people off their feet. Elephants are screaming through their trunks. When they run past you, you notice penguins sitting on the back of these huge animals. You don't forget about Snowball and decide to find your dog. You're wandering through the streets, meeting other people who lost their pets too. You've got a lot of messages on your phone. Your friends are asking you to check the news. You go online and see that all over the world, animals' behavior has become strange. You can see footage of a panda getting into someone's car and driving away. Another video captured several wolves standing in line at the supermarket. Chimpanzees are running out of a store with packs of books. In another video, several seals push a fisher out of his boat. 3 waiters are sitting in the corner of a restaurant, while lions are walking around them and roaring. One of these animals puts its paw on the menu, and it looks like it wants to order some food. You don't notice a giraffe standing next to you. It bows its head and is also watching the video on your phone. You scream and run away. You approach your house and see Snowball. Your pet is surrounded by several stray cats and dogs. Looks like they're communicating with each other. They notice you and immediately run in different directions. You get into the house with Snowball. Cook your lunch and pour dry food into his bowl. Snowball refuses to eat those crunchy meatballs. He points his paw at your plate and jumps on a chair and waits for you to serve him a normal meal. It's all strange, but you give him your food and sit down next to the dog. After lunch, the dog runs into the living room and sits near the wardrobe. You open it. Snowball points at the second shelf with his nose. There's some blank paper there. You put one sheet on the floor. Snowball jumps onto the table and takes a pen with his mouth. The dog's holding it with his teeth and drawing something on the paper. After 5 minutes, you look at the drawing and realize that it's a crooked, incomprehensible inscription. And it says, "From now, I understand everything." You look at the poodle and he nods. From this moment on, the lives of all people on the planet are changing. Your pet isn't the only one who has become sentient. All the mammals in the world are now as intelligent as humans. Dogs no longer walk the streets on leashes. Many pets run away from their owners and never come back. Others stay in houses and apartments, but only under certain conditions. Any pet has to eat the same food as their owner, sleep on a separate bed, choose TV shows to watch, and walk out when they want. Scientists around the world offer animals a chance to pass intelligence tests. Zebras pound out some famous melodies with their hooves. Gorillas are excellent at drawing and writing. Bulls draw geometric shapes on the sand with their horns. As soon as people realize the animals are smart, they decide to release all the mammals from captivity. Pigs, sheep, cows, and other farm animals escape from farms and pastures. They want to be free. Meat products are disappearing from all stores. Milk production slows down because not every cow wants to share it with people. Animals get freedom, but it isn't enough. They want to say something important, but they can't because their vocal cords are not capable of it. To solve this problem, scientists create a collar that reads an animal's brain activity and turns their thoughts into words. Now mammals can speak with robot voices. 1 million wild and domestic animals come out of forests and the jungle all around the world. Reporters gather around them with cameras. A llama with a collar approaches the microphone. It declares the planet belongs not only to people, but to animals as well. From now on, people are prohibited from harming nature. If they violate the agreement, the animals will begin to take over the cities. A 500-page act is signed. The terms of the agreement are written in detail. Some of the animals move to the forests and jungles, but some mammals want to live in a comfortable urban environment. Several years pass. Animals and people are getting used to a new way of life. Every mammal living with humans now wears a speech collar. This allows them not only to communicate with humans, but also to become full-fledged society members. Now you can see wolves delivering mail on the streets. Antelopes work as track and field coaches. Orangutans work as librarians. One bat becomes a popular DJ and makes the best techno parties. People have learned a lot about animals thanks to the collars. It turns out that bulls are mannered, gallant gentlemen who don't like aggression and fights. Lions admit they love popularity. They want to be actors, writers, and musical artists. Bears are the laziest creatures on earth. It turns out they can't stand hunting and enjoy sleeping. That's why their winter hibernation lasts for months. Lemurs and jerboas are worried about the future of the planet. They work as politicians and hold the positions of CEOs in many large IT companies. But cats have surprised people most of all. It turns out they have always been intelligent. They just didn't tell us about it because they've been living well enough. Since ancient times, cats have been highly respected in many countries. They stay at houses all day, relax, and bask in the sun. People love them and give them food. It's a great life. When they got collars, they said they didn't want to change anything. Famous fashion houses hire animals as models. You can see lions, gorillas, elephants, lemurs, and koalas in stylish outfits on the covers of magazines. Whales and dolphins are mammals too. They've also become intelligent, but their way of life hasn't changed much. They still like to swim in the seas and oceans. One day, people decided to interview a blue whale, the biggest mammal in the world. The whale said that two things are important in this world: clean water and the ability to communicate at low frequencies with other whales. And be careful with animals that came here from another planet. Then the whale simply swam away instead of answering the question of what it just meant. Over time, people realized that animal intelligence develops faster than that of humans. They build unique exosuits that allow working with their paws like people. A roe deer gets in the exosuit and builds structures with the help of mechanical hands instead of hooves. Using modern technologies, some animals create comfortable houses in the forests. They also install video cameras on trees to monitor people who decide to chop some wood. Then the animals invent their own language. Now they can communicate with each other without callers, using gestures, sounds, and smells. 100 years later, a group of deer and sheep create their own company to conquer space. Mammals send the first rockets into space and colonize Mars with people.
Hey, if I said, "What time is it?" you'd probably look at your phone, laptop screen, or wristwatch to find out. But how do these devices know the time? In your devices, the time is set automatically by the program. But how does this program know the exact time? People set up wristwatches before the sale. But then, how do these people know the time? Does anybody really know what time it is? Hey, there's a song there. Anyway, how do we determine this time? And what happens if all the clocks in the world stop? Wait a minute, or longer. So, welcome to the National Physical Laboratory in southwest London. Here you can find some of the world's most famous atomic clocks called hydrogen masers. There are about 400 such devices around the world, and they help the whole planet navigate through time. All modern technologies, satellites, operating systems, GPS, flight and train schedules, and the TV program on your screen are guided by the atomic clock. And here's how they work. Imagine a pendulum. It swings from one side to the other. One swing from left to right, or vice versa, is a period of time equal to 1 second. The pendulum is not very accurate since it's not constant. Its movement may slow down or accelerate. In atomic clocks, atoms do the function of a pendulum. When they're exposed to microwave radiation, they begin to fluctuate. About 9 billion fluctuations are equal to 1 second. Don't believe me? Hey, count them yourself. The vibrations of atoms are precise and unchangeable. These clocks are not lagging behind and not accelerating. The error in such a clock can be 1 second once every 10 million years. Now, I can't wait around that long, so I'll take my word for it. Atomic clocks guide all modern technologies and communication satellites. And now, let's imagine that, for some reason, they stop working. Atoms no longer react to microwaves. After them, quartz watches and all electronic ones stop. Your phone no longer shows the time, and the arrival times of flights disappears on the information board at the airport. At this moment, all dispatchers contact the pilots and ask them to land urgently at the nearest airports. Further flights become impossible. There are too many planes in the sky. If several start taking off and landing at once at the same airport, it can lead to a disaster. Dispatchers wouldn't create the correct schedule without clocks. The same goes for all trains. Train stations can no longer coordinate trips and make switches on railway tracks. This system is too complex and can only work with a precise time. The world is beginning to plunge into complete chaos. The banking system is collapsing. Brokers don't transfer money to clients' accounts on time. People can't get their salaries on schedule. Imagine you promise to send a presentation to a client tomorrow at 2 p.m. and expect to get paid for it. The next day, you don't know what time it is, and send the presentation to the client 2 hours later. They don't get the file on time, and the deal falls apart. At large plants and factories, the schedule of the day gets down. People don't give out the necessary volume of production. Imagine some factory produces 2 tons of processed steel in exactly 8 hours. But the rhythm of work is disrupted, and this reduces the volume. Next, the steel should go to the ship. However, the ship's schedules are no longer working either. And this applies to all materials in general: wood, electrical carriers, oil, and metals. Logistic chains collapse because of the stopping of the clock. There's an economic crisis and panic in the world. The exchange closes and opens every day at different times. Shareholders and investors are losing a lot of money. Some say that the clock, not the steam engine, was the most important mechanism for the Industrial Revolution. Steam engines powered cars and ships, but they couldn't synchronize the work of many people. Under such conditions, you stop rushing anywhere, but so do all the other people. You can come to the supermarket, and it will be closed because its owner overslept. But then, when its doors open, you'll find that there are almost no goods there. Ships, trains, and trucks couldn't deliver fruits, breads, and vegetables because they couldn't agree on the time. Many will leave big cities, as it'll be challenging to live there without clocks. The age of high technology has ended. TV channels stopped working because some employees were late and didn't start the broadcast. The channel host came before the operator, but the sound engineer is still sleeping because the alarm clock doesn't know what time it is. To stop the chaos, two things need to be done. The first is to accept that the former high-tech life will no longer exist. The second thing is to take an example from our ancestors. People live for thousands of years without knowing the exact time. It has been necessary only since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Before that, people were guided by the sun, the rooster singing, and the internal biological clock. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans used to go to bed at night and wake up in the morning. But with the invention of the light bulb, this order was violated. The industrial era forced humanity to focus not on the internal clock, but on the opening time of factories and plants. Then TV, the internet, and video games were invented, and the sleep mode established by evolution changed. But in a world without counting time, people will forget about alarm clocks again and start improving their sleep. There will be a sundial in every house. The shadow will guide humanity. Hourglasses of various shapes and sizes will be popular again in the world. Sooner or later, we will have returned to some landmark in time as it was in the past. For example, in the 19th century, people used hundreds of different time standards. Railway schedules and buses determined each of them. When the number of routes increased, people started sticking to the same time that was set in Greenwich, UK. There was a big mechanical clock that guided the whole country. Greenwich Mean Time, or GMT. Merchants, factory directors, and bankers adjusted their watches according to GMT. When all UK trains were timed, the GMT signal was sent across the Atlantic via an underwater cable straight to Harvard in Massachusetts. Then, at a special conference in Washington, D.C., more than 25 countries recognized Greenwich as the international time standard. Everything was fine. The technology worked synchronously worldwide, but the problem started. After 10 years, scientists realized that the world needed new clocks. It turned out that the Greenwich clock was inaccurate because it was based on the time our planet spent to make one spin around its axis. In the 20th century, people learned that Earth changed its rotation speed over the years. Oh yeah? It accelerates or slows down because of the gravitational influence of the Moon, the Sun, and other planets, and because of geological fluctuations inside the Earth's core. Scientists calculated that in 1900, the Earth rotated 4 milliseconds slower than at the end of the 21st century. Yes, there are people who watch this kind of stuff. Therefore, people began to develop other, more accurate clocks, atomic ones that we still use. But the strangest thing is that even these clocks don't work in the way people need. Their main problem is excessive accuracy. Earth doesn't constantly rotate the same way, so workers sometimes add additional seconds to the atomic clock or subtract them. And here's why. Ordinary clocks are based on the rotation of our planet. When the time on such a clock shows morning, it's also morning outside. When the clock shows the late hour, it's dark outside. You with me? Our planet doesn't rotate at a constant speed, and the atomic clock is perfectly stable. If the world always worked based on these clocks, then time would sooner or later deviate from the actual day and night. At some point, the sun would begin to rise at 6 p.m., and sunset would start by 7 a.m. To prevent this, timekeepers changed the time on atomic clocks slightly. All of this is necessary to preserve the usual things for people so that the morning hour on the clock and the street coincide. Well, it's time for me to make like an atom and split. Whoosh! Your spaceship is almost there. Thanks to the latest technologies, you can now travel to any planet in our solar system faster than ever before. And we can finally visit other planets completely safely. You applied for a space tour, and now you're on a ship with your guide, astronauts, and a couple of other passengers. First stop, the smallest planet in our solar system, Mercury. It's only a third of Earth's distance to the Sun. The view is going to be spectacular. As soon as your ship lands on the solid surface of this rocky planet, you see an endless universe, stars, passing comets, and the Sun, 3 times bigger than we see it from Earth, with no clouds to interfere with the view. There are no moons. Mercury and Venus don't have any. You try to move, but because of your spacesuit and reduced gravity, it feels like you're on a trampoline in a slow-motion movie. It's not safe to come here during the day. On Mercury, it lasts almost 59 Earth days. Although your spacesuit keeps you safe, temperatures can get pretty extreme. During the day, they go up to 800 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no atmosphere to keep the heat, so temperature during the night can drop down to minus 290 degrees. That's why Mercury isn't the hottest planet, even though it's closest to the Sun. Venus is the second closest, but it has an atmosphere that retains the heat. You're safe in your special spacesuit, but it will still be really hard to go through such drastic temperature changes, so you need to hurry. Mercury has weaker gravity because it weighs less than Earth, which means the gravity on Mercury pulls less on your body. If a person weighs 100 pounds on Earth, they'd weigh 38 pounds on Mercury. And you do feel lighter. Hurry up, we don't have much time. You hear your guide's voice in your spacesuit. He's standing next to you, pointing his finger. Look to your left. That's why we're here. Calorus Basin. Amazing! Mercury has such a thin atmosphere, there's nothing to protect the planet from asteroids slamming into its surface. It has the most craters in our solar system, which is why it reminds you of the Moon. And now you're there, looking at the Calorus Basin, the biggest impact crater in the entire solar system, formed almost 4 billion years ago by an object at least 60 miles long. You can see its rocky interior, filled with deep fractures and high sharp ridges, surrounded by the highest mountains you can find on this planet, towering 2 miles above numerous lava vents. They used to be active. The other side that's hidden from the Sun has tiny deposits of ice, which is the only form of water here, but you don't have time to see it. Mercury is only a temporary stop before you keep moving. As soon as you get comfortable on the ship, you see your guide approaching you. We can't stop on Venus, he says. Sometimes we can at least get closer to the surface, if not land and go out, but today, the winds are crazy. They're usually a little over 220 miles per hour, and they keep the yellow or bright white clouds of the planet in constant motion. Volcanic activity formed the surface of Venus. 90% of it is solidified basalt lava, so it might not be the best place to visit anyway. Also, it has a dense atmosphere. While inside the spaceship, you get a video call on the special space communication system from your friend. She took some time off a little bit earlier than you did and went to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is a gas giant, so there's nowhere you can land. Also, the pressure is really strong. It squishes gas into a liquid, so Jupiter's atmosphere could crush any metal spaceship that goes through the colorful clouds like it's made of paper. Visitors mostly take day trips to see it, cruising in their spaceships, taking pictures from above. It's crazy because that planet is like a stormy whirlpool of wind, and it has the brightest auroras in the entire solar system. Your friend even saw the Great Red Spot. It's a giant oval-shaped storm moving in a counterclockwise direction. It was amazing! The red spot is 4 times bigger than Earth. But the real treat was Europa, Jupiter's 6th moon. Scientists believe it's young because of its smooth and relatively untouched surface. Europa is a big oceanic world with all the right ingredients for life we haven't discovered yet. They even offer you tours where you try to discover if there's anything waiting under a thick ice shelf. Visitors have to wear some special, extra protective spacesuits because Europa receives huge amounts of radiation from Jupiter. And there's Io, another one of Jupiter's moons, which is colorful and just the most beautiful thing ever. It's the place with more volcanic activity than Earth and has the most active volcanoes in our solar system. Over 400 volcanoes, 150 of them can erupt any time. Jupiter's gravity pushes the volcano's activity. It squeezes Io like a rubber ball, and that results in volcanoes. You wish you could have been there with her, but right now you're going towards your next location. Days pass by, and at one moment you see Earth from a distance. You feel a little bit nostalgic, thinking about your friends and family. But after a while, you get excited as you see your next destination. Finally, it's the red planet. You hear the distant and muffled sound of the spaceship landing on the rusty surface. Everything around you is just a barren giant desert. The wind is strong, kicking up dust. That's how those huge alien sand dunes are made. And the storm will come these days, they say. Billions of years ago, Mars had liquid water on its surface, lakes and rivers, maybe even life around or inside them. Its axis of rotation is a bit tilted, so Mars has seasons similar to those on our planet. When one hemisphere is tilted closer to the sun, it's spring and summer. The other hemisphere that's tilted away gets fall and winter. The atmosphere on Mars is way thinner than ours, so the planet can't trap that much heat near its surface. Air pressure on Mars is around 50 times lower than that atop Mount Everest. You arrive at the Space Hotel. Mars is the only planet with such hotels at the moment. On the other planets, you sleep in your spaceship, because they can't offer conditions safe enough for people to stay there for a longer time. The staff of this hotel is great. They got used to tourists because Mars is the most visited location in our solar system. The food there is great, and you can't wait to eat it and get some sleep. The next day, you wake up at dawn to get ready for some skiing with your group. Days on Mars are approximately the same length as they are on Earth. It was snowing all night, but because of the dry, low-pressure atmosphere, snow never stays for too long, so you need to take a chance. Mars has amazing mountains and valleys, and those icy polar caps were so cool. Oh, and look at those volcanoes! The next day, a small aircraft specially designed to transfer you across the planet comes and picks you up for a day trip to Olympus Mons, the biggest volcano in our solar system. It's 16 miles above the surface, 3 times taller than our Everest. You land at the outer edge of the volcano. The peak is so high, it seems to go beyond the horizon. On the third day, you visit Velis Marineus, the iconic canyon system you could only see in pictures until now. Its network of chasms is amazing, 5 times longer and 4 times deeper than our Grand Canyon. At its widest point, it's 200 miles across. You decide to spend the next 5 days in the southern hemisphere. There's another hotel there where you can book day trips to numerous extinct volcanoes in the area. Everything is covered in dust in different shades of red, orange, and brown from iron rust. But the sky is dusty all the time. You even get caught in a storm once, so no one can leave the hotel the entire day. You look at the sun, which is a bit more distant than we see it from Earth. You miss your planet where you can walk around without special suits, feel the fresh breeze, swim in the ocean, or have coffee with your loved ones. There's one more place to see before going home. It's more dangerous and complicated to visit than the others. Cygnus constellation Kepler 16b. A planet that orbits 2 stars and actually has 2 sunsets, so you'll have 2 shadows. The planet is made of gas and rock, so it's going to be tricky to land. But the new adventure is waiting, and time to set off.
Try to imagine what it would be like if you woke up one day and everything around you was pink. And I mean literally, not just having a think pink vibe. Everything from your walls to your bed, desk, armchair, and even the clothes you wear would be rosy. Would you be able to live in such a world for a whole week? Your first thought might be, is there something wrong with my eyes? For most people, the answer is no. Even if there was something wrong with your vision, the chances are you wouldn't end up seeing just one single color for the rest of your life. Most people who are colorblind are born that way, even though there are rare cases in which you can develop this condition later in life. And even those people who are totally colorblind see the world only in black, white, and gray. Most people with colorblindness have problems perceiving certain colors. Their greatest difficulty is distinguishing the shades of the same color. But let's get back to our pink world, shall we? Is pink a special color for our brain? When you think about pink objects, you most likely associate them with emotions like love and kindness. In some cases, looking at the color pink for longer periods of time can actually make people feel more agitated. In sports, teams have been known to paint the opposing team's locker room pink in an attempt to decrease their energy and performance. This tactic was implemented by an American coach who believed the all-pink room would mess with the minds of the opposing teams. What if I told you that this specific shade of pink you woke up to had special powers, though? In the 1970s, a scientist named Alexander Schaus found a color that made people feel calm and relaxed. After lots of experiments to test the effects of different colors on people's behavior, he found this specific color which he named the Schaus pink. His study showed that when people looked at a bright color, they lost strength in their muscles. But when they looked at the color blue, their strength returned to normal. The researcher talked about this in public lectures and even showed it on TV. He invited a bodybuilder and concluded that they could not do a single bicep curl after staring at the pink color. Schaus was so sure of his discovery that he even suggested that prisons should paint holding cells pink to calm people down. 2 officers at a U.S. prison tested this idea by painting one holding cell pink and found that some inmates became calmer after being in the pink cell for 15 minutes. In any case, Schaus's original research hasn't been proven to be true by the following studies, but that doesn't mean you can't test it out for yourself. There's no way to tell how your brain might react to living in a pink world for a day, a week, or even a whole month. It all has to do with your previous experience with this color. If it was a happy one, you might actually like living in a pink environment. However, it may be hard on your eyes after a certain point. But we can't say that the colors we surround ourselves with don't affect us. Carl Jung, a famous Swiss psychoanalyst, developed a theory of color psychology, also known as Jungian color theory. He believed that each color meant something different somewhere in the back of our mind and had the power to reveal deeper thoughts. He thought that colors could be used to understand an individual's innermost thoughts and feelings. For example, he considered the color blue to be formal and precise, while green made people feel relaxed and patient. While looking at the color yellow, people became more sociable. And if you liked the color red, it meant you were competitive and strong-willed. Pink isn't the only color people have studied to see its effects on the brain. Let's take green for instance. Would you feel better living in a green world? Well, looking at this color can actually help you focus better. Studies have shown that people who take short breaks to look at pictures of green things, like trees or grass, concentrate better on boring tasks and make fewer mistakes. This is because green is a soothing color that is easy for our eyes and brain to see. I mean, it's the color we often find in nature, so it's no wonder most of us find it soothing. When it comes to red and orange, we should use these in moderation. So, no orange houses for me, thank you. These colors can make you feel more energized and active, but too much can be bad. Researchers concluded that being surrounded by red or orange for long periods of time can make us fussy. Let's not forget about blue. It can make you feel calm and rested. But it can also make you feel gloomy, especially those darker shades. Waking up in a blue world might come with its own set of problems, depending on the shade. Then, there's the problem with blue light. It's the type of light screens emit. At times, it can be bad for your sleep because such a light can trick your brain into thinking it's still daylight. It can make it hard for your body to produce the hormones you need to fall asleep at the right hours. To avoid these issues, it's a good idea to avoid blue light screens for at least an hour before bed. How about our eyes? Is staring at the same color for longer periods of time any good for us? Not really. If you look at one color for a long time, for starters, it can change the way you see other colors. Back in the day, people used old computer screens that featured a lot of green hues. Because they were exposed to this color a lot during a normal working day, they would see everything with a purple tint for a while after they stopped using the computer. The explanation is simple. The part of the eye that was responsible for seeing green got tired. It got compensated by other parts of the eye that were more rested, those responsible for the red and blue hues. What do you get when you combine red with blue? That's right, purple. These days, most people use computer screens that are white with black letters, so this problem doesn't happen as much. This change in our eyesight is also explained by the McCullough effect. It's a phenomenon that happens when people perceive a change in color of an object after it has been looked at for a long period of time. In 1965, Celeste McCullough found out that if you looked at colorful stripes for too long, it could affect how you saw things for months. Her experiment had people looking at colorful stripes, then at black and white ones. If you do this for long enough, you'll end up seeing the monochrome lines in color too. Just like how a camera flash can make your vision go blurry for a bit, this effect can last for a long time if you look at the stripes for too long. Does the color you stare at make any difference to your eyesight? Well, not really. There is no evidence to suggest that a certain color can trigger the McCullough effect. It's rather caused by a combination of factors, like changes in the way the brain processes visual information, fatigue of the eye muscles, and changes in the way the eye's retina responds to light. What about light? Exposure to some sunlight is important for our well-being, but you've surely heard this one since you were little. Don't stare directly at the sun. Is there really any evidence that it affects our eyes, or is it just another myth? Turns out, it is indeed dangerous. When you stare at the sun for an extended period, ultraviolet light enters your eyes. It then gets through the internal lens onto the retina and reaches the back of the eye. When this light-sensitive tissue is exposed to UV rays, it can get damaged. You'll end up seeing spots for longer than just a few seconds, or even have permanent eyesight damage. This process can happen quickly, even in just a few seconds of direct sun gazing.
You wake up with pizza boxes piled up on top of each other. You stretch your right arm and slide it across some wet spilled noodles you had last night. Your leg smears some chocolate cake from last week and stains your mattress. There are random papers, clothes, books, food cartons with food still inside them, and other random useless junk all over your queen-size bed. You're too lazy to get out of bed, but you have to get to work. You shove aside all the junk and slide it onto the already littered ground. There are plastic bottles, more fast food litter, clothes, dirty dishes, and animal fur on the ground. It's sticky and covers every inch of real estate to the point that you feel like you're walking on lava. You stare out the dirty window, look at yourself in the mirror, and sulk. This isn't the you you'd thought you'd be a year ago. The sun is shining and you just bought your brand new house. It's a nice place outside the city in a little friendly neighborhood surrounded by picket fences and blooming flowers. Your neighbors come up to greet you just as you pull in the driveway. They bring a casserole and some yummy desserts to welcome you to the neighborhood. You gleefully accept them and head inside your new pad. Throughout the week, you unpack your bags and arrange your furniture. You also just landed a new job which helped you afford this house. You wake up every day at 6 a.m. and come back home at 10 p.m. This new job is paying you well, but you don't have time for yourself or to keep your house in order. Over the next few months, you start ordering food every night and bringing leftovers to work. You haven't changed your bedsheet since you arrived and haven't vacuumed the floor since you first stepped foot inside. The smell inside is getting stronger, considering you're not taking out the trash or opening the windows to air out the house. You've also given up on sorting out your dirty laundry. You have no more clean clothes left, so you're reusing the same clothes for work, but they have food stains all over them. The bathrooms are not a place anyone would like to go. The running water drips and overflows onto the floor, making it damp inside. Since no sunlight enters, mold grows abundantly, providing a home for various bacteria and parasites. It's no wonder you call in sick every month. So much work has made you lose sight of your house and has affected your performance at work. You've gotten multiple warnings and have been told to take care of yourself and get new clothes or wash the ones you have. But the more clothes you buy, the more dirty stacks of clothes appear all over your house. There's no place to sleep anymore. Your bed is a mountain of junk, and your couch is home to boxes you haven't even unpacked since you moved in. You order a sleeping bag and crash in the dirty kitchen. Cockroaches are crawling on every inch of the kitchen floor, counter, and little crawl spaces. Rats have chewed on most of the wooden furniture and created a network of underground tunnels for them to access every area of your house. You hear the little rat tails clacking on the tiles whenever they run past your ear. You try to sleep, but the dishes in the sink are so stacked up that the dripping faucet channels water to run through the plates and glasses and splash on your forehead. You pick up your sleeping bag and place it in the basement. The smell is unbearable. There is moss growing in every corner and even a small puddle of stagnant water festering and providing a home for mosquitoes, bacteria, and other vermin. The rats and mice use this small pool as a swimming ground to have pool parties and clean themselves up after a long day of eating your food and creating tunnels. There are thousands of rats in every corner, but you somehow don't mind them anymore. You see little nests of baby rats in the dark corners. The wooden foundation is failing and being eaten away by termites and the buildup of mold. You wake the next day with rat footprints all over your body and go to work only to be kicked out and sent back home to clean yourself up. You try to shower, but the pipes are clogged and only a few drops of dirty water land on your body. You go to the backyard that has a dirt-filled patch where you were supposed to build a swimming pool, but didn't have time to follow up on it. You lay your sleeping bag on the dirt and try to find a garden hose to clean yourself. But rats have gnawed through the plastic so it can't spray properly. Either way, you rinse yourself with water and try to dry yourself with some garbage bags since you can't find your towels in the sea of trash. You go back inside to watch TV, which surprisingly still works. You clear some space on your couch and order pizza. You have a stack of pizza boxes stacked on top of each other, forming a makeshift coffee table, and you rest your legs on it. The pressure and weight of your legs allows some insects to scurry away that have been eating the leftover crusts and cheese. The doorbell rings and you get up and answer it. The delivery guy is already in his car driving away from the stench. They all know you by now. It's a good thing you paid online. You go back to watching the movie while seeing some more critters crawling all over your TV set. Hours pass, and you realize that you need to wake up early for work. You make some room to sleep, but scratch your head on some sharp object lying around the couch. Months pass. The neighbors stop talking to you, and even straight up ignore you. They avoid you every time you leave your house. Mostly, they gossip and comment on your house. All the pests that came from your house are spreading throughout the neighborhood. Pest control cars are driving in and out of the neighborhood, visiting a new house every day. Flies and maggots have settled your house to the point that it's impossible to walk around and not have some flies circling your face. Anyone who drives by the neighborhood knows that your house is the source of the infestation. Many more months pass, and your house is unrecognizable. It's impossible to see the floor, and the walls have scratches all over them. Rats have taken over and nibbled on just about everything. They've become your new friends when eating and even finish some leftovers for you. The basement is completely flooded, and the water is leaking out to the main road. Other creatures have sought shelter in your home, including stray cats and dogs, raccoons, possums, and even bats. You have broken glass all over the floor from the busted light bulbs, and your mattress has holes all over it. You wake up with pizza boxes stacked all over you, and then look at the mirror. It's your 1-year anniversary of moving in, and this isn't the life you imagined. Out the window, you see your neighbors selling their homes, with some already gone, including the one who welcomed you when you first moved in. You turn around and, as if for the first time, you finally see that your house is such a mess. You spot a picture of yourself hanging on the wall. You put it there when you first moved in. You decide to fix your house and clean it all up. You know it'll take weeks or months, but you skip work and begin by cleaning up your room. You get boxes of garbage bags and start stuffing trash inside. You buy 3 new vacuum cleaners and start collecting all the dust and debris that has collected over the past year. After a couple of hours, you have over 20 garbage bags outside your house waiting to be collected. The stains will need to be scrubbed away, and the destroyed furniture will need to be thrown out. After 2 months of hard work, you manage to get rid of all the trash you can find. It takes you another week to scrub the floors and walls and order new furniture to replace the broken, chewed-up ones. The biggest challenge is getting rid of the remaining pests and fixing the basement water problem. After making some phone calls, you get some pros to fix the water and get rid of the vermin. It takes you a total of 4 months to turn your place into a minty fresh pad to live in. Your garden is blooming, and you go back to work in fresh clothes with a wide smile. And you get to meet your new neighbors, who have heard all about you. Yep, you have some fences to mend, don't you?
Imagine you wake up one day to a world with no electricity, no internet, no money, no work or school. Nothing that you're used to. No, you're not in California when they shut the power off. You're not even in your own home, because you've been magically transported to the Stone Age. What could possibly happen next? Of course, your first reaction would be shock, but let's move past that. You've now accepted that you get to experience life Flintstone style. First, let's look around. This is your cave, where you live with your family. You have your own sleeping area that's covered in animal skin. However, you might also live in a primitive hut supported by mammoth tusks and ribs, with an animal skin over it as protection from the rain. Your morning routine won't include a quick trip to the bathroom or to brush your teeth or a hot cup of coffee. And if you're wondering where the Stone Age people did their business, well, it was basically anywhere outdoors. How convenient. Just pick a bush and go. All right, it's time to get out and explore the New World. But hey, don't forget to put on your clothes. No, nothing comfy and trendy from the mall. Back in the day, humans used the skins of the animals they hunted to create simple, rough loincloths. To make these hides more flexible, they had to chew them. Let's assume you already have an outfit for today and don't have to strain your jaws right now. Thousands of years in the future, humans will learn how to smoke these animal hides to make them last longer and start making tunics. What about footwear? Scientists believe it was present around 40,000 years ago. Take a small piece of animal skin and wrap it around your foot. Then stuff hay under the heel to create some kind of sole. Voila! One shoe is done. Do the same with the other foot, and you're ready to roam. Now, don't be scared. You're not going to face a giant mammoth right outside the shelter. Ancient humans were pretty smart and learned animals' habits because it was the only way to survive in the wild. So they chose caves or built huts in the safest places they could find. Now go down to the river and wash your face. Are you curious to find out what you'd look like in the Stone Age? Take a peek at your reflection in the water. See, you're not that much different from the modern you. Just that your hair is a mess and you might be a few inches shorter, with a more developed jaw because of the harsh diet. And look at those bulky muscles. Well, that's what you get when your life is all about running and fighting with wild animals while hunting. Yes, hunting is on your to-do list today. But first, it's time for breakfast. Luckily, you have some leftovers from dinner. Eggs, wild fruits, and berries. Sorry, no gas stove to cook the eggs. Why not try to do it over the fire? Here's a free tip. Find 2 small but sturdy and dry wooden sticks. Place some dry leaves or a chunk of your own hair at the base for kindling and rub the sticks vigorously against each other. Keep going. Be patient. Okay, finally there's an ember. Good job. Now you can cook your breakfast using a flat stone as a frying pan. Need a fork? Sorry, that won't be invented for thousands of years. See that seashell attached to a wooden stick? That is your spoon. Come on, the jungle is waiting for you. Thankfully, the Ice Age is long gone, so the weather is warm and lush greenery is in abundance. That's good for you since you have to pick different edible plants, nuts, fruits, and wild grains. It wasn't until around 10,000 BCE that folks in the Stone Age learned how to grow their crops and domesticate animals. Only then could they finally stop moving from place to place in search of good hunting grounds. Oh look, there's some grapes. Let's snatch them. But how do we gather grains, you might be wondering? Well, allow me to introduce you to some Stone Age tools. By the way, the Stone Age is named after the tools that humans invented that were made out of wood? No, obviously, stone. Let me help you out again. Here's a U-shaped stone sickle that knocks down the grain stalks. It's time to bring everything you've collected to your camp. Now that the shock of time traveling is worn off, you notice that there are a few other huts near your dwelling. Those are your neighbor. Betty and Barney Rubble, I guess. Stone Age people usually united in groups of 20 to 50 and helped each other to survive. Okay, you can eat grapes and other fruits raw, but what can you do with raw grain? To separate the grains from the husks, take a stone bowl and a small grinding stone and grind the grains. Now, if you mix smashed grains with water, you'll get gruel. Fry it on stones the way you did with the eggs, and there's your first flatbread. Yeah, it doesn't taste amazing, but don't forget, it's going to be another 15,000 years before your favorite bakery gets built. Is it dusk already? Brace yourself, my friend, because you are about to go hunting. But I've got good news for you. You don't have to do it alone. Stone Age people survived this period because they did almost everything together. So, call up your camp neighbors and get ready. How would you feel living in such harsh conditions? Let me know in the comments. But how did humans communicate back then? At the very beginning of the Stone Age, they only used a series of cries and gestures to express their fear, joy, pain, or warning to the others about imminent danger. It was much later that they learned how to pronounce specific sounds using their teeth, tongue, and mouth. That's how both speech and language was developed, which made their life much easier and leveled up their teamwork. Of course, anthropologists have no clue how exactly their language sounded since obviously no written traces are left, and nobody left any tapes either. Oh, what's a tape? Ancient technology, don't worry about it. So, you and your camp fellows need to take some special hunting tools with you. What are they? The first and most primitive things used for taking animals down were long sharpened wooden sticks, and sometimes just a big rock. But over time, sharpened sticks turned into sophisticated spears. The points weren't made of metal yet, of course, it's too early for that. Instead, they used small sharp-edged stones attached to a long bone or stick. This was a very important invention since it made hunting less dangerous. Their chances of staying alive were better because they didn't have to get as close to an animal and could hunt it from a distance. As dusk settles, your hunting group goes deep into the jungle. You should be looking for large herbivore animals like elephants, woolly mammoths, giant bison, deer, and reindeer. They won't be only your dinner, but will also give you a supply of furs, bones, horns, and hides that you can use for your household. There were two main hunting techniques back then. The first was rather time-consuming but safe. It included digging a huge hole around the place where animals went to drink water. That hole served as the trap for your game. But you're gonna have to dig it out without a spade or shovel. You'll need the help of a digging stick, a wooden stick with a horn on the top, or a large cleaver, an oblong-shaped stone or bone. After the hole is ready, you'd have to hide nearby and wait patiently for an animal to fall in. The other technique required the whole hunting party chasing the animal down and forcing it into mud and water channels where they get stuck and have no way to get out. Did you see that? It's a deer. Run! Run as fast as you can and try to corner it straight into the swamp. Oh no, got away. Yeah, not every hunting session is going to be a success. In fact, most won't. But your tribe still needs something for dinner.
Better move on to fishing then.
Don't worry, you won't have to catch fish with your bare hands. Fishing nets and harpoons are at your disposal. Nets were made from tree bark and grass. The oldest one, found by archaeologists, dates back to 8,300 BCE. Harpoons made of antlers usually had a rope to pull the catch back up to shore. It was used mostly for big targets like whales, tuna, and swordfish. Okay, once you've asked around where a good spot would be, throw the net in the river. Now you have to wait. Oh look, there's some fish. Pull the net with all your might. Come on, tribe, help him out. I mean, don't look at me, I'm just narrating here. All right, good catch, and not a moment too soon. You've just made sure you won't go hungry tonight. Bring what you caught into the camp and get some rest. The others will take care of the catch.
Now I know what you're thinking. It's all work and no play. And yeah, life in the Stone Age was anything but easy. But still, humans did have some forms of entertainment.
No, you're not going to an amusement park or a cinema, but you can pass the time playing music on flutes, made from bird bones and mammoth ivory. You can also take up a hobby like crafting, making necklaces and bracelets from tusks, bones, and shells. Or you can get full-on artsy and draw patterns on your body using a paint made from ochre. It's a type of red clay. Or paint some pictures in a cave. Carve something crazy to make archaeologists in the future wonder what it meant.
Can you smell that? It's dinner time. Go on, enjoy it, you deserved it. Doesn't it taste so much better since you worked so hard for it?
All right, now that you've experienced a day in the Stone Age, let's take you back home to the modern day. The next time you complain that your internet is too slow or the food you ordered is 15 minutes late, think about how much harder life used to be for people in the Stone Age, and how it is only thanks to their tireless efforts to survive that you and I get to enjoy our pretty comfortable lifestyle today.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.